Hello folks, welcome to my YouTube channel, Watercolor Impressions. Since it's winter season in Toronto, I've been doing quite a lot of winter paintings. This week we are going to learn how to do early morning winter painting. Before you go, hit the subscribe button so you guys can get weekly video updates from my channel. And let's get started guys. As always, I'll provide the drawing template and reference. Check my video description to download it so you guys can follow with me with this tutorial. Being said that, whenever I draw, I look for bigger shapes in my painting, in my reference, and I will just keep going from there. But I constantly compare with other objects in my painting, from the bigger shapes to secondary shapes and tertiary shapes. So once I'm happy with my drawing, I'll start with the first wash. So the first wash is I'm putting down the sky. That's a light wash in your painting, and sometimes it can be darker based on the darker clouds or the lighter clouds. So for the clouds, I always opt for cobalt blue. And before it's drying out, I'm putting down my other wash. This color is called Aurelian. So it's kind of like a lightish mustard yellow color. So whenever you do your first wash, think as of it's a base color of the wash. So if you squint your eyes, it will give the base color, and you can put light as possible. And you can see watercolor does. It blends by itself, so make sure to put the wash so it blends by itself and create this beautiful impressions. So sometimes I have a bad habit of going and covering it, but still I have that habit not to cover it, because once you leave it as it is, it gives this beautiful marks you can't paint by hands. So being said that, I'm focusing on the foreground building. For this, I'm using cadmium yellow and orange, and I don't talk that much about colors in my painting that much. I believe that every artist see colors differently, and this is how I see it. And if you're an artist, you have to come up with your own vision looking for colors. So that comes by practice and doing a lot of paintings. When I started painting in watercolors, I was super scared about colors, but once I started painting, and it got better every time I do. So now adding some darks on top of this roofs of the houses, and I left as it is at the top because it's snowing and the snow deposits at the top of the roofs. But in your reference, if you can see, there's a lot of this early morning warm on the snow, but I will add it at the end. So now But now when I was recording this video, I realized that I put the dogs way too early. I should have done it at the end, but because I went with this vision, so I'll keep continue it. So there are some times when you're painting, you do this kind of mistakes, but you try to overcome it by being confident and keep going. There are times when I'm painting, I feel that I'm losing the painting. I'm not going to produce a good work. But eventually I'll keep going, and at the end something good will turn out. So now I'm focusing on the shadows on the foreground building, and you can see the shadows on the reference. You can see it is like reflecting a lot of things from the light on the ground, but I'm just going to make it a little bit cooler and with a little bit of burnt amber and a little bit of violet in it. So I'm kind of playing with the warm and cool here now, because in colors, warm and cool goes really well. So that's the reason behind I'm kind of mixing it differently. And if you paint as it is from your reference, it's going to look boring. And I realized that even if you take any painters, they don't paint from the reference as it is. But there are painters, realistic painters, they do it. But if you see most of the painters, they kind of create impressions, or they put the spin on it. I think as an artist, we have to have a creative expression, and we have to come up with our own expression of what we're painting. And that differentiates each artist, and that's where your style comes in, your strokes and your edges and your calligraphy, and everything changes from different artists. So now I'm focusing on the car, which is in the foreground. I'm trying to make this as dark as possible, even though it doesn't look dark now. Once I put the shadows, watercolor goes dull after some time once it dries out. Even though it looks dark and severe now, it will fade off eventually. There is one thing I hate, or painting cars and people because they have complex shapes. Even though I try to minimize and thinking everything as a shape, still sometimes I'm turning and training to see it better. So the street lights and street poles, there's nothing. These things, when you add this thing, it shows a little bit of character in your painting. So every city have different kind of traffic lights, and the way they have the wires and directional lines is different. So when people see it and they relate to this kind of things, because this are day-to-day objects, and they instantly say that yellow lights and it's Toronto. This is the bit which makes every painting a painting. I'm talking about shadows. So in watercolors, we paint the light first, then we add the shadows at the end. So usually shadows are a little bit darker, and the values are a little bit in the mid-tone to the darker tone you can imagine as possible. And at the top, I'm making it light. At the bottom, I'm kind of increase the pigment consistency so that it kind of becomes like a gradient. And I'm also treating the old trees in the midground as one flat shape. So I'm also adding a little bit of design to have a impact in my painting as well. And I also improved my design in my shadows on the house as well. Even though the shadow doesn't go that far, but I created it in such a way that it creates a contrast between light and dark. So before it dries up, I'm going to add a little bit of design at the bottom using white paint, and I'm just going to connect this shadow with a purple, with a purplish, bluish shadow in the foreground, and that kind of comes around warm and cool contrast in our shadows. And now it's a matter of using a little bit of white paint to bring back some of the highlights back. A lot of people frown upon it, but sometimes every painting needs this, because it's a really hard sometimes to leave some highlights while you're painting. So being said that, you have to be really careful when you're using white paint, because people tend to overdo it. Personally, I overdo it too, but I'm trying to keep it minimal as possible. So wherever the highlight goes, you just have to squint your eyes and check where everything goes. And it also brings back planes in the front, and it also sends some planes at the background as well. So I'm also adding this the bus stop sign, which is like quite like prominent in Toronto bus stops. I want to make sure to add that. And I also added so I want something to come in the front, because the one on the left hand side looked really weak, so I want to add some street poles there as well. So now it's your turn. Take my drawing template and reference, and let's see what you can come up with. And I also use this tape to see how the painting looks like when it's framed. Thanks again for watching this early morning winter painting with me. Let me know what you guys think about this video in the comment section. If you want me to cover any of the subjects in watercolors, write me at watercolorimpressions@gmail.com or comment below. Before you go, hit the subscribe button so you guys can get weekly video updates from our channel. And please do share with your friends and family. And good luck with your painting, folks.